Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. One Word Conversations is a self-discovery, relationship building conversation designed to invite us to look at our language to see how we are connecting and disconnecting through one word. One Word Conversation is brought to you by IamWilliamBrown.com, a place to help you be yourself and live your life. One thing that's available there that I use to spotlight what's at IamWilliamBrown.com is our U cards. Our U cards are intention setting cards, and they are also a game and prompts for your journal. So I have picked cards for this conversation to set the intention for our conversation today. And the cards that I picked is I am kind, you are complete, and there is no one youer than you. So this is the moment where I invite you to like, share, comment, ask questions, subscribe, do all those things to let me know that these conversations add value to you. So with that in mind, I will introduce our word, and our word is search. And it's like, so that's going to be interesting because there's a lot of things that are coming up for me, and a lot more than Professor Google. So with that in mind, I will invite my guests so we can have a conversation. Good morning. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. This is the moment where I invite you to introduce you at. Wait a minute. I don't know what I was about to say, but there's some words that got in the way from. This is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves, however it feels comfortable to them.
So, hello, I am Jillie Maria. I am a medium, I am an intuitive, I am an Akashic Records practitioner. I am into all things woo, and I am super excited to, I'm also a coach. I am super excited to be here today to discuss the word search.
Wow. Um, yeah, it's there's a part of me that I'm embracing my woo or my understanding of woo or all that other kind of stuff. And when you said that, I was like, oh uh-oh, but it's great. So how does the word search land for you?
Um, I was kind of surprised, when I saw that search was my word, I was surprised and I kind of tumbled it around in my mind a little bit.
Hmm.
It lands as an opportunity, first and foremost, to go within and go out into the world.
Hmm.
And I feel like we are in a time and place where we are discouraged from searching.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like we are in a space of where we are actively discouraged from
Wow.
searching. And so I feel like search almost is coming into a space of, for me, it's expansive personally.
Mhm.
I welcome the opportunity to search, research, make things searchable, encourage other people to do the same.
Right.
In my work, in my play, in my hobbies, in my passions, hey, go do your own research, go search for your own self.
Right.
But I feel like we're in a space, quickly coming into a space of take my word for it.
Right.
Leave my narrative. Don't do your own searching. Because
Right.
searching implies the notion of thinking for yourself, of free thought.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
feel like there's so much fear right now
Mhm.
that I feel like we are actively afraid of. And when I say actively afraid, I mean the notion around in the moment we're afraid. Like we know we're afraid, as opposed to being passively afraid, where we want to strike out at somebody that says something we disagree with.
Right.
But we're not quite sure why. Like we're just trying to repel it, but we don't
Right.
understand the actual danger, if you will, or threat, if you will.
Right.
As opposed to being in a space of, what if I search within myself
Right.
for why that bothers me.
Right.
Or what about that person, candidate, situation tweaks me, torques me, pokes a wound?
Right.
Am I willing to go and search within myself?
Right.
And searching takes us on a journey.
Right. Yeah. I think too often we want to, uh, I guess, the destination, right? We want to just be somewhere.
Yes.
Someone did this, so this is the result, and that's the answer. And I think exactly what you were saying. It's almost um, there. It feels like in this time we're being kept from searching.
Yes.
It's like if we, ask questions or if we research, it's like, it's kind of there. It's kind of interesting. It's almost like redundant, right? It's like you look again, right?
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
and so maybe that's what research is all about. It's implying that you're going to look and then you're going to look again, right? But for me, I think for a long time my life has been a search. It's been searching for identity, searching for belongings, searching for acceptance. I've always been on the lookout for, meaning, for understanding. And many times it's caused, trauma or difficulty in my life because it's like, why are you thinking about this? Why are you looking for? Why do you need to know this? Just like you said, take my word for it. This is what it is, you
Mhm.
know. And it's just really there. There has always been this feeling that you know, if if I stay in a posture of searching, um, then I don't want to say I won't have any concerns, but my life will be fuller. There would be a sense that the angst, the tweaks, all the things that cause discomfort in my life will kind of reduce because I'm in an act of searching.
Yes. And curiosity. Searching invites, for me anyway, curiosity, as
Mm,
opposed to, I don't go into situations with a predisposed idea of what you think or what it's going to be, or how, like, I'm not pre-reacting to somebody else's anything. I'm just
right,
going into a space of,
right,
let me be curious about what happened actually,
right,
or why, or how can I act into it? How can I do positive action? What's this all about? Let me read it. And one
right.
of the things that I do that a lot of people I feel like are really boring. I actually read legislation.
Mm,
I actually read for original source.
mm,
So one of the things that I found especially was so prevalent in 2020 was I would read an article and it would give me a hyperlink. So I would
right,
follow the hyperlink. Like, I'd read the article, I would come back to the hyperlink, and the hyperlink would take me to someone's opinion of
mm,
the bill, the legislation, what happened, as opposed to give me the local first rundown of what happened,
right,
who was involved, what the story before you started taping was.
right,
And a lot of people were in this space of, why do you care?
right.
Why are you searching for that?
Mm,
Because for me, searching is part of searching when I've done the work within and when I've gone out in the world is I know when I get to what I'm the kernel of truth by how I feel.
right.
So if
Got it.
something is inherently out of whack for me, and I think this is a really good lesson for everybody, is how does it feel in your gut? Because the body doesn't lie.
Hmm.
So if
Wow.
we're in a space of, I feel gut twisted about something,
Right.
and a lot of times we get in that space of, well, how do and when I teach people the body pendulum and telling their own truth, and I say, okay, well, what's true for you?
Hmm.
Because I had this notion, as an example, I'm very much a lover of historic homes. As an example, I do a lot of searching, and I'm searching for who lived there, everybody.
Hmm.
As a medium, I'm searching for the story behind the story.
Wow.
Not just what you see on a website, not just the pretty words, not just what the people want you to see,
Right.
but I want to know who lived there, what
Right.
they did. If this house was moved, why was it moved?
Hmm.
Like locally we had to be, I mean, progress is a thing. I fully understand that. But I feel like it's not just like, yes, I want to save the house, even if it means moving the house, fine.
Right.
But then I'm searching in that space but the land, the people who lived on that land, the people who put their footprints
Right.
on the land, in the house, so on and so forth. So it's this continuous search, partly to honor those people, to honor
Right.
our history, to really be in that space because here's the thing, I can't understand for you, nor you for me. I can
Right.
share a piece like I can say, when your audience watches this and thinks about the word search, it's going to land differently for them
Right.
than it does for you, for me, I can't search. Oh God, if I search and I find out that I no longer am a whatever labels you have,
Right.
or what if you discover, like you said earlier, the search for my truth, my identity.
Right.
What if you realize, like the number of people, as an example, who I saw this year being labeled as not being Black correctly, as an example.
Right. Got it.
And I sat there going, what? Okay, but how do you tell, like, I'm a woman. How do you tell me that I'm being a woman incorrectly? Or if you identify as a Christian, like you're Christian incorrectly, or you're a business owner incorrectly, or you're a man incorrectly. So to be in that space of searching deeply
Right.
and being in that, do I need to react, is another thing that we need to soul search on our own. And a lot of us are terrified of having our truth unbecome our truth.
Right. Oh, you just reminded me of there was a person that I was just speaking to. It wasn't on the show. It was like just a regular conversation, right? I have so many shows. Sometimes I get them confused. But she is in her, I think, late 70s or mid 70s or something, and she just found out, um, the place that she was born, that she thought she was born, she wasn't born there,
Oh, wow.
in a different time. And so there are all of these identities that in her lifetime that she thought that she was this makes sense. But there was this other thing that she couldn't explain.
Mm-hmm.
But when she got this information that, oh, this is where you were born, this is where you grew up and all that kind of stuff, it's like then it was like disturbing, and then it all made sense, to her.
Yes.
And I think she wasn't searching, but once it was revealed, then it was like, whoa, it is really, really something. And I think there has been time, for me, because, even though curiosity is one of my core values, and within my conversation, last season on Discover, and it's like, there is many times that I don't embrace Discover because, I'm like afraid what I'm going to discover. I'm going to pick up this rock and see a bug under there. And it's like, it's like, I am going to see something. I am going to search and find something that I wasn't looking for.
Yes.
And it's like, I just want what I want. Right. So
Yeah.
I rather just say, okay, this is what it is. And I'm not going to search, right. Than really look and know. And I think that, sometimes we don't do search. I'll speak for myself because it never works out when I speak for other people. That people tell us not to search, to do our own search, is for our benefit. Oh, you're too busy. I've already done the work for you. This is what it is. And so you're like, okay, right? But then you find out that, wow, all they did was, their search was just to look over there. That's what they saw, and that's what they told you. It really wasn't a search at all. And now you're like, gee whiz, how did I let this, be the answer. So how can we search and not get lost in the search? I guess that's a question for myself, and if you have an answer for that.
I think being intentional. I think being intentional is super helpful. Figuring out what you want to know or what you think you want to know,
Right.
and what's your why. Because I feel like a lot of times if we can be in the space of, because I think knowing your why helps you to reconnoiter, reposition, come out of the rabbit hole sometimes. Like, that's really interesting. I'll bookmark that and come back to it later. But
Right.
being in a space of, what am I looking to find out and why?
Right.
And because a lot of times if you're in that space of knowing why, you also know when you've hit pay dirt. Because sometimes we're in that space of, we think we just want to know.
Right.
And then we figure out something that we didn't want to know, or that changes our whole life.
Right.
Or sometimes something is searching for us. And
Wow.
we, like, if your purpose is searching for you, like one of the things I hear is, what you're searching for is searching for you.
Right. I've heard that.
And at the same time, there's that notion of, where are we? For me, it's, where are you if you're unwilling to search? Because a lot of times I see people being, people come to me and they're miserable. And, when I'll say, okay, so what are you, they're like, and a lot of times I'll say, where do you think you want to be? Not where do you want to be? Where do you think?
Wow. That's an interesting question. Yeah.
We have a notion
Right.
of, because oftentimes, one of the things that I hear frequently from clients is, or just even people, is they'll have this, it's interesting, people's perception of us and where we are versus where we think we are, or where we know we are.
Absolutely.
And so being able to be in a space of, people will say, I want to be where you are. And I was like, okay, where is that? Because a lot of times people feel like if you're awake, quote unquote, or if you're on your spiritual journey, you're going to get there.
Right.
And then suddenly it's all going to be sunshine and roses, and you're going to be, crapping cupcakes and all the jazz. Here's the thing. It's a really painful journey.
Right.
Searching for our truth and realizing you've been told something that isn't true. Or, for example, realizing that maybe you had a political hero, or maybe you had a historic hero of some variety, and you learn that that person isn't who you thought they were.
Right.
Or you learn that that person was a cheater, that they cheated on their spouse. And maybe that was the thing 150 years ago, that everybody did it and it just was accepted, and on and on and on. But it rocks your foundation still.
Right.
Or if we're in a space of, searching for answers, and we go to a website, as an example, and we think it's going to say one thing, and it says something entirely differently.
Right.
Or we look up a word, and, one of the things that I'll do is because I feel like a lot of times we are inviting people to be in misery with us. We are inviting social media invites us to all be collectively angry, or collectively, you should feel outraged, angry, sad, disgusted, victorious, whatever it is, as opposed to being in a space of, can we lead with curiosity? I'm searching from a space of curiosity. My desire is to know what really happened around.
Right.
And then, am I open to a different viewpoint?
Yeah.
Like, if we're going to, because a lot of times, one of the things that I find very interesting now is that so often the problem is not the problem.
Right. Absolutely.
So if we're searching for, we're trying to put a Band-Aid on a heart attack and make it okay.
Right. Wow.
We're trying to just get through the next 5 minutes. And a lot of us are in survival mode, or we think we are. So we're just trying to stay alive.
Right.
And, I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was a store manager in retail, and one of my employees walked in one day. She's one of my best employees. And she goes, I have to quit. I have to give my 2-week notice. And I was stunned. And I remember saying, well, why? Something, because nothing appeared to be out of whack. She was
Right.
fantastic. I'd just given her a raise, just made her a key holder. She was fantastic, people. She goes, I have to go join a gang.
Whoa.
Speaking of searching for answers,
Hmm.
you have to go join a gang? I said, well, tell me about this. And she said, well, where she lived in Boston was a housing project.
Mm-hmm.
All four corners were controlled by 4 different gangs.
Hmm.
So in my effort to search and keep her, I made a decision in that moment that I was keeping her no matter what.
Right.
I was not
Wow.
quitting. So I said, who do I talk to get you out of the gang?
Wow.
And so speaking of searching for answers, for a solution, and she said, that's not what you're supposed to say.
Right.
I said, okay, here's the deal. I love you. I love working with you. I love having you on my team. I love that I can go get a cup of coffee and get dinner and I don't have to worry about it. So who do I go find out who I need to talk to get you out of the gang? What I have to do.
Right.
I said, if I have to be beat up, if I have to have a conversation with somebody, if I have to go to someone's gang territory, I don't have an issue with that.
Wow.
She was stunned. She's like, well, remember that you're white. She was Hispanic.
Right.
And I said, I know the area well. I said, I rollerblade and walk through that area on a regular basis. I know the area really well. And I don't know if I was fearless or stupid at the time.
Or a little both, right?
A little both. But I made the decision that I was on her side and that I was not going to have her being in a street gang.
Right. Wow.
She was a straight A student. She was a junior in high school. No, she was a sophomore. And it was not going to end well if she ended up in a street gang.
Right.
So I searched and she came back. She searched and said, he's stunned. And I said, okay. She said, the gang leader that I'm talking to that controls the street, the corner, is stunned. But if you want to, this is where you meet him and this is what time you meet and this is what you're doing.
Right.
Okay. So I went. And I told my people, I said, okay, here's the deal. I knew it was a stop on the T, but I didn't know much more about the area I was going to than that. And I said, I was going during daylight hours. And I said, okay, if I'm not back in the store, told her and my main key holder, if I'm not back in the store by this time, call 911, explain the situation. We'll go from there. And so we had a sort of backup plan.
Right.
Which the guy that I was casually dating at the time, who also happened to be a Boston police officer, was not pleased when he found out after. Quite displeased with me, as was my boss. She was quite displeased when she found out way after the fact what happened. But I went and met with him. And I said, this gang leader, and I said, look, I have this girl. She's utterly fantastic. People, she's a straight A student. She's got a future ahead of her. And I said, I'm not quite sure why you're pegging her to be in the gang. And he was like, well, for her safety. I said, okay, can you guarantee her safety without her being in the gang? And I said, or tell me what you need from me. Take me instead.
Wow.
And, I didn't have any expectations going into it. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew I needed to stand for her, and I needed to know the what, the why, the who. I needed to know all this information.
Right. Wow.
He said, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. I said, okay, fine. He's like, thank you for asking to meet with me. Thank you for the respect of not just pushing her out the door and what have you.
Right.
Wasn't going to do that. So I go back to the store. I get back to the store probably a half an hour before I need to be back in the store. And she, of course, says, how did it go? Wide-eyed. And I said, he's thinking about it and he's going to let me know. I said, he's probably going to get in touch with you since he doesn't have any of my information. Right. I said, he's probably going to get in touch with you. And so about 2 weeks later, she wasn't quitting. She was, I said, if anything changes, if anything, tell me.
Right.
Because I fostered that reputation, that, relationship with all of my employees, be honest with me, no matter what.
Right.
So about 2 weeks later, I go back out. She says he wants to meet you again. Gives me a date, gives me a time. I go. And he says, did she tell you? And I said, she didn't tell me anything. She just gave me this date and this time and told me where to meet you.
Right.
He said, I'm going to guarantee her protection, but I'm not going to put her in the gang. He's like, you've convinced me. Now, I didn't say much of anything other than take me. She's a straight A student. She's got a future ahead of you. I'm not judging people that are in gangs or not in gangs. I know the purpose. I've researched deeply more than people, again, speaking of boring subjects. But interesting things that searching for answers.
Right.
Searching for the why. So he said, okay, I'm not going to put her in the gang. I'm not going to make her join the gang, but I will make sure that everybody else knows.
Right.
If they mess with her, they mess with me.
Huh.
Thank you so very much. And he said, you're pretty brave to do this because most people would have just accepted her 2 weeks notice and walked on. And I said, thank you. I was just overwhelmed with gratitude.
Right.
So I go back to the store and I tell her, I'm like, you're not in the gang.
Right.
He's going to take care of you. He's going to watch over you. He's going to let it be known that this is what he's told me.
Right.
And so she was in a space of, she was sobbing. Like she was just like, she didn't want to be in the gang, but she didn't know what else to do.
Right.
And I think a lot of times we are afraid to search. We are afraid to ask. We're afraid to go there because we don't know what's going to happen. And when you're in a space where it's not that you don't care, because I cared deeply.
Right.
But I felt like this is the right thing to do. Fundamentally, the right thing to do is to fight for your employees no matter what you're fighting for.
Right.
And, having someone have your back. Right. And then, of course, finding out a couple weeks later that, my boss, she said something like, thank you for sticking your neck out for me. And my boss was like, because I didn't say anything, obviously, to my boss because it didn't concern her.
Right. Need to know basis, right?
Yes, at that time. So I told my boss, and she was, you what? And I ended up telling, we were walking outside, and I was saying, you what? At the same time that my sort of boyfriend, that was BPD, was walking into my store, and he said, oh God, now what did you do? And I'm like, well,
right.
So I ended up telling him the whole story, and he of course was, and I've never, so if my parents happen to hear this podcast, they're going to be like, what? Because I never shared it. But here's the thing. I think that search is a really big word.
Right.
And I feel like it's an undercover big word. In other words, it's not what we expect, and it's what you make of it. Because you can search, you can say, oh, I see an abandoned building as an example.
Right.
And drive on past it, and it's not a big deal. And, it's over 100 years old. Nobody cares. It's not shiny. It's not new. It doesn't have Wi-Fi. And pass it right on by. Or you can search and figure out the stories and why it matters and who lived there, and searching into why we react the way we react. Searching into, researching into, going within and searching in ourselves. If that you're reactive to something, or a lot of times people say, I have an anger management issue. I'm like, nope, you have a failure to feel emotion issue.
Right.
And a lot of times we don't want to indict anybody, right? A lot of us hold our parents, our grandparents, our community leaders, our pastors, our religious folk on pedestals.
Right.
So we don't want to search, because if I find out that I'm angry about how I was raised, or I'm feeling angry toward this person, or I feel ashamed because of something that happened, or I find emotion within myself, what if I discover that, I'm gay or I'm lesbian? Right. Or what if but I did the thing 20 years ago and I got married.
Right.
Because that was what you did. Or what if I'm 3 years into medical school and I discovered that I pass out around blood.
Right.
That's going to be a small problem.
Right.
Or what if I discover that I don't want to be a lawyer? That I would rather be a travel agent, or I would rather, my whole family is lawyers. I had someone that happened a couple of years ago that her whole family was Duke educated lawyers. There were 2 doctors in the family, but everybody else was like 15 lawyers throughout her extended family. So she went to law school because that's what you did. And she discovered in her second of 3 years of law school that she really, 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 really didn't want to be a lawyer. She had rock solid reasons for it. She's sobbing hysterically. She's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to reach out to because everybody's behind me being a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. I've amassed $100 and some odd thousand dollars in debt. And I can't go to Thanksgiving dinner because I don't have a poker face, and I'm going to have to tell them that I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't know what I want to do, but I don't want to be a lawyer. What do I do? Help me.
Right.
So I said, okay, searching within. Why don't you want to be a lawyer? And I said, I'm not judging. I'm just asking. Like, what about being a lawyer? Because there's a lot of things you could do with a JD. There's really a lot of things you could do with it. So you don't have to just be a lawyer if that's not your thing. I hate research. I hate writing papers. I hate the thought of being in a courtroom. I don't want to be a jurist. I hate all of it. I said, okay. And then she says, you know why I really hate it? And I said, no, but tell me, because I think that's the pay dirt. Right. She's like, the legal system serves 2 different sets of people in 2 different ways. And it's not an integrity for me. Boom.
Wow.
I said, okay. So that's why I said, so do you feel like you can affect it from within? Not maybe necessarily as a legal aid or, again, doing lawyerly things. But if you have a JD, if you are a lawyer, if that is your title, if you're a title as attorney, you might have more impression, more real estate.
Right.
So, let's search into that. And so she put on a happy face, went to Thanksgiving dinner, decided to take the following spring semester off.
Give her some time, right?
Yes. She goes, I'm just going to go work. I'm going to get a basic job. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to get a job and enough to pay my rent and not worry about everything for 6 months. And so she finished up law school on her terms. And she is writing, she's doing a blog. She's doing some other stuff too, but she's mainly, the legal front is doing a blog and speaking out on things that she sees as injustices, as things that need to change, as how can I influence my friends who are in it, practicing actively, and saying, as a lawyer, having gone through the same training you went through, where are the weaknesses and how can we shore them up?
Wow.
Where are our obligations? And I feel like in searching, it's such a powerful word because we can really use it as we see fit.
Right.
So we can either do a search of like, oh, look, a pond, and walk away. We discovered a pond.
Right.
Or we can get a couple rocks, skip them, and see how deep we can see as the water. We can flesh out, use all of our senses.
Right.
The more that we're willing to search, the clearer we get.
Right. I really want to acknowledge you for, it's like search is like your life, right? It is so much about, because, the story of your employee, there was a lot of searching that was going on within you to know what, how you would show up, how you would need to show up for your employee, for that human being in a very difficult situation. And the same thing with your lawyer friend of really having them really get to um, the core reason instead of, because many times we'll accept the superficial reasons, right?
Yes.
We'll accept that and just kind of, it makes sense. All right, I don't like it, but I'll just go that. And we lose access to the real reason.
Mm-hmm.
What's really driving us is there's a core belief that this sucks and I don't want to be a part of this, right? But we don't want to admit that to people. But because she was able to get to that place to really search in with your leading, that now she can show up differently,
Yes.
and she doesn't have to hide anywhere. And I think I brought up this saying once, when you were speaking, about your manager, the need to know basis, and sometimes that's how we live our lives. We are like, I'm this is a need to know. I don't need to know this right now, because if I knew the truth, right? If I knew what was real in this, I might have to be responsible for making some other choices here.
Yes.
And so I'm not going to search. I'm not going to ask. There are many questions that we don't ask. And I'll speak for myself. There are many questions that I don't ask because I already know the answer. And I already know that it's going to require me to do a lot more than I'm willing to do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard for me to say to someone, "Hey, I'm not doing this because I don't want to do it." you know,
Yeah.
you know, but I can tell you all kind of other things and reasons and all that other kind of stuff that keeps me from the reality that when I search, into this is just not how I want to spend the rest of my life.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's just really, the more that I look at the search, and I say with my wife sometimes that curiosity is a core value that I have. But my wife, I say that she's like Nebby, and she's like, "Well, what's the difference between curiosity and being Nebby, right?" And I was like, you have like, curiosity for me means that I want to learn something so I can use. So there's like a use to it.
Mm-hmm.
There is this benefit. You just want to know stuff just to know stuff, but no connection to anything. That's just, for me, that's just nebby, right? And it's like, why are you wasting that energy? Why are you wasting your curious energy on stuff that means nothing? And that's how sometimes social media shows up for me. It's just like, what are you talking about right now? And why are you arguing with someone on social media? It means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all that other kind of stuff. And I think we spend a lot of our time in the superficial, unnecessary, not connected to anything, and then we miss those opportunities to be there for ourselves and for each other, like you were sharing. The more that we really search and look at what's important to me, what
Mm-hmm.
am I willing to get on I was going to say the A train. I don't know if it was the A train, but get on the train and get off and talk to a gang leader and say, not this one.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that you're willing to discover about yourself to really stand up for that. And so yeah, I think our life is calling us to be on that search, to be
Yeah.
on, so it is not a destination. It's a journey,
Definitely.
and it's an ongoing search, and we're
Definitely.
uncovering more and more about ourselves, not just for ourselves, but for each other.
Well, I think, I think too is the opportunity to search, the opportunity, like you said, the notion between, do you want to know because you're curious because it has a use, or do you want to know to either just know,
Right.
or are we trying to weaponize it? Like, what are we, like if I knew a thing about you, what would my reaction be?
Right.
And I think also, you're right. We do totally stay in a space of surface. Because if we discovered that we all want to reduce poverty, homelessness, whatever, but we might have, just like GPS, 3 or 4 different ways to get there.
Right.
If we just stopped being divisive with each other and deciding that, because we're so much in a space now of, if you don't agree with me, you're a whatever.
Whatever, right? Got it.
As opposed to being in that space of, no, I'm not, and like feeling that need to defend ourselves, but stepping into the space of, actually, I'm curious as to, because a lot of times if I engage with people on social media, I'll say, and I don't agree with them, I'll say, what brings you to that viewpoint? Or what is your experience that gives you this feeling like that is the right position to be in?
Right.
Or what are you doing to be a positive in that? Like, what are you going to do to, resolve your, like, pick your 3 big problems that you see in the world.
Right.
And what are you doing actively to engage so that you can be a part of the solution? And a lot of times, someone that a few people have said in the last year, but someone that I know personally had said, complaining is a national pastime. So we don't want to be in that space of problem solving.
Right.
Because if I actually solved my problems and I actually was in a space of, because here's the thing, when we start searching and we get in touch with the emotion that is driving the conversation, the belief, the opinion, the anger, whatever, we have a tendency to, 1, shift our viewpoint and our values, but we also shift from reactivity to responsiveness.
Right.
So we're no longer in that claw thing, I want to tear your face off, I want to light everything on fire thing.
Right.
We go to a space of, is this interjecting value?
Right.
Is this propelling us forward in a real way? Because so many of us are good at word games. We're excellent, like the media is excellent at word hopscotch.
Right.
But when it comes to, like, what are you really doing to propel humanity forward in a positive way? Are you doing anything to propel humanity forward in a positive way? Or are we numbing? And again, that's a search topic as well.
Right. I think we can talk about this for hours. There's things that I need to search for. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
But there's been a lot of things that has come up for me. Is there anything that you want to leave everybody with?
I feel like using the notion of searching deeply for your own self, and be curious, lead with curiosity, and see where it takes you without criticism, self-shaming, self-judgment.
Wow. Yeah, I can take a little bit of that. So
Same.
thank you very much. This has been a lovely conversation. And it's encourage us all to search and search again, because there is more for us to discover.
Yes.
I hope you can hang out in the green room for a moment, so we can say our goodbyes from there. But I greatly appreciate this.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Wow. The one thing that came up is what you're searching for is searching for you. I don't know if you remember when that came up in the conversation. But sometimes when I decide not to search, I wonder if is it still searching for me? And I think sometimes it shows up in people that, that I don't like or don't want to deal with, all that other kind of stuff. But I'm just getting, the search is on. And so embrace the search. The more that you embrace the search, the more that you will find yourself. So I hope this conversation has brought value to you, not just to your day, but to your life. You can reach out to me at amwilliambrown.com and have a complimentary coaching session, or you can text me at 864-381-8139 text Let's Chat. Leave your name and your email, and we'll chat. Because the world wants you, the world needs you, but the world isn't waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow on One Word Conversations.